Today, we're digging into a story that is completely flipping the script on India's ancient history and maybe even the history of all of us.
For the longest time, we thought we had the answer to this one pretty much locked down. But, well, there's always a twist, isn't there? A recent discovery is pushing the timeline back, way, way back, and it's forcing us to rethink everything we thought we knew about our earliest ancestors in South Asia.
So, the old story, the one a lot of us learned, was mostly based on genetics, and it put our ancestors, Homo sapiens, arriving in India about 60,000 years ago. But the new evidence, whoa. It places modern humans in India more than 80,000 years ago. We're talking about a 20,000-year gap. That is huge. It doesn't just tweak the story, it completely rewrites the first chapter.
So how did we get this so wrong for so long? And what in the world could be so powerful that it just overturns decades of scientific thinking? Well, the answer, believe it or not, is buried under tons of ancient volcanic ash.
Okay, so it all hinges on this one single massive event. About 74,000 years ago, the Toba supervolcano in Sumatra erupted. Now, this wasn't just any volcano. This was a super eruption, one of the biggest in the last couple of million years. It just blanketed huge chunks of the planet, including India, with a thick layer of ash. And for ages, the theory was that this caused a volcanic winter that basically wiped out anyone living in the region, a total reset button.
To test that theory, you have to go to the scene of the crime, or maybe in this case, the scene of survival. So archaeologists zeroed in on this one river valley in northern India, looking for clues. And here it is, the Dabba archaeological site. So, what's the big deal about this place? It's all about the timeline. See, the layers of dirt here are like a perfect history book, giving us a continuous record from way before the Toba eruption to long after. It's the perfect window into this crucial time in human history. And what they found, well, it pretty much blew their minds. We're not talking about a few random artifacts. They found a huge collection of stone tools. And the way these tools were made, this specific technique called lavalis, it's like a calling card for early Homo sapiens coming out of Africa and Arabia, a direct link. But here's the absolute kicker. They found these tools in the layers below the ash, in the ash, and above the ash. This means people were there the whole time. They even found bits of red ochre, which is basically an ancient crayon. A hint of early art, maybe.
Okay, so finding the tools is cool, but how do you know how old they really are? I mean, really, really know. For that, you need some seriously cool science.
It's all thanks to a method called luminescence dating. Here's how it works in a nutshell. Imagine every single grain of sand is like a tiny rechargeable battery. As soon as it gets buried, it starts soaking up natural radiation from the dirt around it, charging up over thousands of years. Then, back in the lab, scientists hit these grains with light, and poof, they release all that stored energy in a little flash. By measuring how bright that flash is, they can calculate almost exactly when that grain of sand and the tool right next to it last saw the light of day. It's like a stopwatch that's been running for 80,000 years.
So you've got the tools, you've got the dates locked in with this light-reading technique, and suddenly, this incredible story of resilience in the face of a global disaster starts to emerge.
74,000 years ago. Just let that number sink in. This is the date of the Toba super eruption, the day the world changed. This was the event that so many people thought was basically game over for humans in Asia.
But the science, the actual paper published in a top journal, it said something completely different. The researchers concluded that these advanced toolkits were present in India before the volcano blew its top, and they were there after. So this wasn't a story about getting wiped out, it was a story about sticking around.
Let's just walk through this timeline, because it really lays it all out. So around 80,000 years ago, you've got people at Dabba making tools, living their lives. Then boom, 74,000 years ago, Toba erupts. The sky literally falls. But you jump forward to 65,000 years ago, and probably way earlier than that, and what do you find? People, still there, making the same kinds of tools. They didn't just disappear. They adapted, they survived, they carried on.
But this incredible story of survival, that's really just the beginning. Because once you establish that people were in India for this long, it sets the stage for everything that came next. A total revolution in technology and, get this, the birth of art. Just take a look at the difference here. It's night and day. On one side, you've got those older Paleolithic tools. They're bigger, chunkier, built for survival. And then, on the other side, you see the next leap forward. These are Mesolithic microliths. They're tiny, they're sharp, and they are way more advanced. This wasn't just about making smaller tools. This was a huge leap in how people were thinking. See, these little microliths weren't meant to be used on their own. They were parts, components. You could slot them into wood or bone to make really complex stuff, like barbed spears, arrows, even sickles for cutting plants. It's like the beginning of engineering.
So, okay, they figured out how to survive. They've leveled up their technology. What's next? They started telling their own story. And they did it on a massive scale. Check out this number.
We're talking about the Bhimbetka rock shelters. Here, you'll find more than 500 caves and shelters just covered in ancient paintings, some of them going all the way back to this Mesolithic period. And they're not just scribbles. You see big hunting scenes, people dancing, strange rituals, just daily life. This is more than just survival now. This is culture. It's the human imagination just exploding onto the walls of these caves.
So let's pull all this together. What does it all really mean? This discovery at Daba, when you connect it to the later explosion in technology and art, it doesn't just add a page to the history books, it forces us to go back and rewrite the introduction to the whole story of how humans spread across the world.
So what are the big takeaways here? What's the bottom line? First, Homo sapiens made it to South Asia way earlier than we ever had proof for before. Second, these early people were unbelievably resilient. They lived through one of the biggest volcanic eruptions in millions of years and just kept going. And third, this incredibly deep history of survival, it became the foundation for all the amazing technology and art that would later flourish across the entire subcontinent.
You know, the amazing thing is that the story of our past isn't really set in stone. Well, except for the paintings, I guess. It's written in the dirt, just waiting for us to figure out how to read it. What this whole story from India shows us is that there's always more to discover. It just makes you wonder, right? What other huge chapters of our own story are still out there, buried right under our feet, just waiting to be found?